Website breaks more news from more sources than the Newsmax Mothership webpage. That's where we head next to get the latest from the front page and more. Newsmax Managing Editor Tim Collie joins us on the show. Good Monday, Tim. How are you?
Hey, good Monday to you, Ed. How are you doing?
It's another day in paradise, my friends. Let's get right back to it. All right, here we go. Top of the page right now as we speak. Governors, mayors rebuff Obama plan to house child immigrants. We're seeing a lot of stories come across anymore from mayors and governors and different elected officials in different states as far-flung as Maine, Massachusetts, who are complaining that the government is sending children to their states and not even telling them.
Yeah, this is a complete turnaround in the common wisdom, which was the thinking was that immigration was an issue that's going to benefit Democrats. But this is coming from Democratic mayors, Democratic governors, Republicans across the country, and it's pretty much uniform right now. They don't want the federal government dumping people in their backyard, especially if they're not being told, as the governor of Nebraska is currently alleging.
Well, that's exactly what they're getting down to. They're calling it dumping. A lot of the government officials are coming back and saying we have to house them somewhere. But you do touch on a point that we just touched on a couple of moments ago with Mark Tapscott from the Washington Examiner, which is already we have people not being told. We have the government being secretive, and we also have this desire by the government, it seems, to hold back what they're doing here, and that Democrats themselves are now angry. I don't think that there's any way the administration thought they would get this kind of a pushback from their own people.
No, they clearly didn't. And when you look back on it, hindsight is 20/20. But from a governor's point of view, from a mayor's point of view, they're coming off the worst economy, as we all are, since the Great Depression. They're very cash-strapped. So all of a sudden, they're going to have an influx of people they don't know, children in their schools, people in different community centers. They all have to be paid for, not even if you're thinking in terms of competition for low-wage jobs. So this is across the board, and it's very, very unclear where the money is going to come from to support these people once they land in your community.
All right, got about a minute left here. Sergeant Bo Bergdahl returns to active duty in Texas. I don't think a lot of people thought he'd be back on active duty this fast.
Yeah, I think the problem here is the phrase active duty. I think he's going to be little more than a glorified clerk with two bodyguards. I mean, he's clearly not going to be near any weapons. And what task he's actually doing is very unclear. He's going to have two roommates, but it's clear they're going to be specialists in the trauma he's going through, and will be watching his every move.
It's fair to say, indeed, that some people are still reading into it perhaps a little more than is actually there at this time. So much more on the Newsmax website. Tim, always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. We'll talk to you again tomorrow and catch up.
Thanks, Ed. Have a great day.
All right, you too. And also something else that we alluded to very briefly. American company faces charges over death train used by illegals. It's been called the Beast, used by people from Central America to travel from Mexico to the United States. There is now charges filed against an American company that owns the train. That's all on Newsmax.com. Right now, let's take a moment to celebrate what makes America special. And this time, it's a hockey team. It's in this American Moment.
History calls it a miracle. The 1980 13th Winter Olympic Games were in full force in Lake Placid, New York. Months earlier, the Soviet troops had invaded Afghanistan, and President Jimmy Carter was threatening to boycott the Summer Olympic Games scheduled to be played in Moscow. But all U.S. Olympic hockey team coach Herb Brooks was thinking about was winning games. His team was the youngest hockey team to ever compete in the Olympics. In spite of their age and inexperience, only two teams stood between them and Olympic gold. The first was the mighty Soviets, whose team consisted of seasoned world-class players who just a year earlier had soundly defeated the National Hockey League's all-star team. The last time the Soviets had played these Americans in an exhibition game, the Soviets dominated 10-3. Sports commentators openly remarked that the only thing that could keep the Soviets from winning the gold would be if the ice melted. But the Americans, led by their captain Mike Eruzione, had other ideas. As the game got underway, the Soviets quickly scored, and by the end of the second period, led 3-2. A little after 8 minutes into the third period, Mark Johnson's goal tied the game. And then with just 10 minutes left to play, Mike Eruzione fired a shot past his defender to give the Americans the lead. The last seconds of the game tell it all.
Is there. The puck is still loose. 11 seconds. You've got 10 seconds. The countdown going on right now. Morrow up to Silk. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
For Newsmax TV, I'm Bill Curtis, and this is an American moment.